Good morning to you, Desiree, Naledi, as well as the viewers of the agenda. As you have indicated in your introduction, that this particular summit, two-day summit, is going to be deliberating on issues around energy and the availability of energy, especially within the Ethekwini Metro. We know, of course, the impact of the rolling blackouts that are currently being implemented across the country. And many of those people that are basically affected by this is the business sector. And let me now welcome Mr. Prashid Maharaj, who is the president of the Durban Chamber of Commerce. Mr. Maharaj, thank you very much for your time. Let's talk about a platform such as this. How crucial is it, and what is business hoping to achieve from this?
I think platforms like this are absolutely crucial in times of crises. I think there's an acknowledgement we have a crisis, and in a time of crisis, you need to consult all stakeholders to share our collective wisdom. But what's important for me, Simphiwe, is that after we've all shared our wisdom, we must have a plan of action. And the plan of action must state what's going to be done, by whom it's going to be done, by when it's going to be done, and more importantly, where's the budget coming from? Is it coming from government, from private sector, or a combination of both? So the outcome is a tangible plan of action to address our energy crisis.
From where you are sitting, Mr. Maharaj, what can be the role of the private sector business in this particular crisis that we are facing?
I see three roles for the private sector. The first one is to share our wisdom and our knowledge, because we are directly affected by this energy crisis. Number two is that we can volunteer resources, because within our organizations we have many skilled and experienced people who have knowledge about the energy sector. And the third is that we can be investors, and that is the most critical role we can play, because the legislation has been liberalized and many private sectors can become IPPs. So we want to be investors to help solve the energy crisis.
Let's now paint a picture of the actual impact of the rolling blackouts in businesses, Mr. Maharaj.
So ultimately, it leads to loss in productivity, especially for the agricultural sector, where the cold chain has been disrupted. So, and this has caused a severe, it's the supply chain. And there's a shortage of agricultural products, so that leads to food insecurity. And modern farming practices need electricity, otherwise they can't produce the food. Then SMMEs have been severely affected because they cannot afford to buy generators, battery energy storage plants, etc. And they are suffering every day as a result of load shedding. And lastly, our tourism sector in KZN has been decimated, because when the electricity goes down, the wastewater treatment plants don't work, and E. coli becomes prevalent in our beaches. So the tourism sector takes a knock.
It does look like that, Mr. Maharaj, the issue of the rolling blackouts in this country is not going to be resolved anytime soon. What is your message as business to government?
I think for me it's important that we work together as a public sector and private sector very closely. I do notice there's a trust deficit between the public sector and private sector. I think we mustn't play the blame game. We must say, let's get together, because we can indeed help solve the problem. Because when you look at global best practice, the private sector is largely involved in the generation and distribution of energy.
Mr. Maharaj, thank you very much for your time.
You are most welcome.
That's Mr. Prashid Maharaj. He is the president of the Durban Chamber of Commerce. Of course, he's going to be, one of the stakeholders here that are going to be taking part in these discussions as Ethekwini Metro tries really to see what practical solutions, can be, put on the table in terms of trying to address the issue of the rolling blackouts. And of course, businesses are adversely affected by this. Some of the businesses that are affected don't even have, alternative sources of energy, such as your generators, to try and keep them going during the rolling blackouts. But of course, during this two-day summit, we are hoping that some sort of solution is going to be, put forth. Desiree?